Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of There Will Be Films, our brand new film review podcast and YouTube channel. My name is Gavin, and this is
Annie.
Hello, Annie.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm very good, thanks. How are you?
I'm okay, thank you.
And as you can probably guess from the title of our channel, There Will Be Films, we are going to be talking about films a lot. There's not going to be any particular genre or type of film that's out of our boundaries. For example, I myself am a huge film fan. I will literally just watch any film that comes under my nose, whether it's 1920s Russian expressionist films or horror films that were on Netflix 3 weeks ago, for example. And I think you generally have the same open-minded attitude towards films as well, don't you? So essentially, we are just really, really passionate about films. I'm not qualified in film journalism in any way, shape, or form. I'm just an avid film and cinema fan.
Yeah, same.
The same. So for our very first episode, we're actually going to be talking about two films which are a part of a wider subject that's quite topical at the moment. And the first film we're going to be talking about is Hollidaysburg by Anna Martemucci. And the second film we are going to be talking about is Not Cool, directed by Shane Dawson. If my understanding of these two films, their origins are quite unusual in that they were both born of an American reality TV / documentary series called The Chair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the format of the show was basically that a script would be written for each of the films, and both the directors, Anna and Shane, were allowed to adapt the films into adapt the screenplay into whatever films they liked.
Yeah, basically. There was a few things that they would have to keep the same. So it would have to be set in Pittsburgh, and I'm pretty sure they had to keep some of the characters' names the same.
Yeah.
Well, they did anyway. I think maybe some of the beats were supposed to be kept the same as well, because if you've noticed, a couple of the same things happen in both.
Yeah. There was a few scenes in each film which were mirrored, weren't they?
Yeah.
But these weren't exactly cheap films, were they? I think they had quite a healthy budget.
Yeah, $800,000. Oh. So yeah, not too low budget.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. It's been quite an interesting experiment, hasn't it? Because we both watched the films separately, and then we've sort of come together to compare notes afterwards. So did you want to get started by talking about Hollidaysburg?
I think that would be the easiest one to talk about first, just because we haven't got so much written down about that, I don't think.
Yeah.
So it'd be easier to talk about that one first and then come on to...
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got Hollidaysburg, directed by Anna Martemucci, who now goes by the name of A.M. Lucas.
Yeah.
I don't know what your thoughts on Hollidaysburg were, but personally, for a first-time feature film, I was really, really impressed by it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, especially because it was her first film as a director. I was really impressed by that, and with budget, at how good it was and how relatable it was as well.
Yeah. It was very much a coming-of-age drama with, realistic, Americans that you would pass on the street, not like your sort of almost like filtered Hollywood types. It was, real working class people, students, slightly eccentric aunties, eccentric cousins. It really captured the awkwardness of any typical coming of age drama, like maybe Richard Linklater's Boyhood or Dazed and Confused.
Yeah, I agree. And it wasn't reliant on stereotypes or anything like that, which was really good.
I felt it was the chemistry between the leads. I felt was really believable. Like there was like the scene in the van with the girl and the guy, the main characters. You really felt that electricity between them.
Oh, definitely. I felt myself smiling at quite a lot of the scenes because it was really believable.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
The progression, their kind of relationship.
Yeah,
things.
Absolutely. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I felt it was everything you want from a sort of low budget indie coming of age drama. You know, it was believable, it was funny, it was dramatic, and you felt like when tonally it was really, really well made. For example, if it was dwelling on one subject for too long, the filmmaker was then sensible enough to shift it in a different direction. Like you had the scene with the pumpkin pie scene. So if anything, I felt if there was if I had a minor criticism about the film, for example, like the scenes involving the eccentric stepfather, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of him.
Yeah.
Because I think he brought a great deal of comic relief to the film.
I agree. Yeah.
But I understand there was budgetary and time constraints around the film, so it was only a minor criticism, really.
Yeah, and it's understandable, and you can kind of forgive it for that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I felt even the minor scenes where, due to budgetary restrictions again, that they would like film the scenes in the van between the two main characters. I felt that even that plot device was written into the plot. For example, with the young lad being concussed and then the girl being too drunk to drive him to hospital.
Yeah.
So even that minor sort of plot device was calculated so that it made sense within the context of the film, rather than being like, okay, they're sitting in a van talking, why aren't they driving anywhere or going anywhere?
You didn't wonder things like that, did you? You didn't think, oh, clearly they're doing this just because of the budget. It didn't feel like that to me at any point in the film.
Yeah, absolutely.
It all made sense within the kind of world in the film, didn't it?
Absolutely. And even that scene ended up leading to the romantic encounter between the two of them as well.
I think that made it progress really well.
Yeah.
It was really funny.
Yeah.
And very awkward.
Yeah.
You felt it.
There was a lot of angst and awkwardness in there, wasn't there? Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing I liked about the film was that there was really, really good, from the offset, there was a really good split screen montage, which is like very atypical of a low budget indie film, as a way of setting the scene and progressing the plot right from the offset. Like instantly we know the kind of town that these people are living in because of the steel mills, the motorway signs,
exactly.
The closed up shops and things.
It's like you've genuinely landed in a Bruce Springsteen song.
So I felt that was a really good, quick way of establishing the scene.
And making you feel like you're part of it as well.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And I did feel that the acting and the interplay and the chemistry between all of the characters was really naturalistic. I'm sure it wasn't, but it felt like that a lot of the dialogue was improvised.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it was scripted, but it just seemed like it was improvised because it was very natural. The chemistry between all the characters, you got the impression that you'd just dropped into their world, and they had all known each other for years.
Yeah.
So I really believed their whole setup and the intricacies of all their relationships.
Exactly. And I don't know about you, but some of it kind of reminded me of some of the stupid conversations I'd had with my friends as teenagers.
Yeah.
And you think, oh yeah, I remember speaking like that.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So it was very relatable in that sense.
Yeah. I love the fact that a lot of the film seemed to revolve around dinner and eating.
Yeah.
Like there was the diner scene where the four guys were eating, the breakfast scene with the eccentric
stepdad,
the pumpkin pie scene, the pizza scene. There was just
a lot of food.
lots and lots of food and drinks, and the takeaway scene at the beginning. So all these interactions were built around eating and socializing, and that really helped the film the characters to gel, I really felt. And
they also took a lot of care with the backgrounds as well. Like you'd see at Scott's house, like the random glasses of wine in the background and things, and like leftover takeaway and things like that. Yeah. It's quite funny.
It was good, really good production design.
Yeah,
where
exactly.
It just looked like somebody's house that you were just visiting, and
I'd like to know where they got so many pumpkin pies.
Yeah, they must have taken hours to make.
I wonder how many of them are fake. Some of them must have been, surely.
Yeah, they were proper pumpkin pies. I never knew pumpkin pie was so brown. I always thought it was orange. So we don't really get pumpkin pie here in the UK, you can probably tell.
So I would love to try it though.
Yeah, absolutely. If there's anyone out there who wants to send us some, that would be great.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. Please, for any of our American viewers, if you can just clarify whether it is supposed to be brown, because it looked more like a Mississippi mud pie, not a pumpkin pie.
That is so true.
Another thing I found really striking about the film was the music, because I remember you were saying the other day that you were particularly impressed by the music, weren't you?
Yeah, because obviously where they were on a budget, I assume they were using some sort of royalty-free music or something like that. But it didn't really sound like it. It sounded like they could just be like standard songs, you know, from indie bands or something. Yeah. So I was quite impressed by that. Yeah, there was some really, really good music in there, wasn't there? Everything just fitted within the context of the film. Yeah. And the songs were all great, and it didn't sound like YouTube background music that I've heard a lot. Yeah. Yeah, so I just felt it was really, really believable. I really got the sense that it was like one of these old kitchen sink dramas, you know, from the UK, from the 60s, where you would just drop into their world, explore it for an hour and a half, and then just leave again. And I didn't feel the need to wrap up all of the loose ends in a neat little bundle. The film just ended. And there wasn't tons of like exposition about things that you should know about the characters. Yeah. They did a lot of showing rather than telling. Yeah, with absolutely, them. Yeah. So you could establish personality traits of each character without having to be told. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. For example, like, it wasn't like, you know, people picking up the phone and saying, "Oh my God, you've been in an accident? When did that happen?" Yeah. You know, none of that. It was much more naturalistic and just built into the story, and just really, really understated and quietly engaging. Exactly. From beginning to end. I personally absolutely loved it. Yeah, me too. Yeah. I would happily watch it again if it came on. So I really appreciated that Anna, even though she put herself in the film, she gave herself a smaller role. Yeah. And I liked that her kind of excuse for speaking softly in it was that I think she damaged her vocal cords or something, so she had to speak really softly. Yeah. And then there was that scene where she's, "Hi, nice to meet you," and then Tori, the main character's friend, goes, like mocking her. That was so funny. That was so well done. It was like a good plot device for not having to act very much in your own film. Exactly. As far as I'm aware, she's not a trained actor, but I completely believed her character, as small as it was. Yeah, exactly. It was just brilliant. Yeah, I just loved it. It was just full of amusing incidents and surprising plot turns. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think one thing that I did see on YouTube from behind the scenes of the chair was that both her and Shane did have difficulties trying to cast actors. So they used a lot of people that they knew. So I know that Anna's, I think it's her brother-in-law was in it. I think he played Scott's brother. Yeah. And I can't remember if she had other people like related to her in it. But yeah, so you can see obviously that's why she's put herself in it. Yeah. But she could have gone more obnoxious with it. Yeah. Yeah. But she didn't. She didn't let her ego sort of get there. Exactly. There wasn't one. Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah. I think that really respectful. Yeah, it really helped the film as well, isn't it? Because that helped to establish all the chemistry and all the interactions between the characters, as we were just talking about. That really probably helped the film feel more genuine. Yeah. Rather than just sort of paid actors who had only just met. You know, the people in the film have probably known each other for a long, long time. The one thing I found really strange is that I did see that one of the criticisms is that test audiences were confused about some of the female characters, thinking that they all look the same. Okay, I did not have that. I don't know about you, but I didn't have that issue at all. No, I didn't. I thought they were all perfectly identifiable in their own ways. Oh yeah, definitely. They dressed differently. They acted differently. Had different colour hair. Names, exactly. Yeah, different personalities as well. So you could tell which one was which just from how they were acting. Yeah. Not just how they physically looked. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like the girl in the opening sequence. She was completely like any other character in the whole film, so I'm not really sure where that confusion has come from. Yeah, I don't understand, but at least we didn't have that problem, so... Yeah, absolutely. I think that's it, really. Yeah. It just had great pacing, relatable characters, a really good meaning, I think, as well, in the film. It'd be a really good film for teenagers of the same age to watch.
Yeah.
I think that would make them feel better about their situations, going off to college or uni or whatever, or not, deciding not to. I think it's something I would have enjoyed at that age as well.
Yeah. It was just so relatable, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I think it would be a good film for any aspiring filmmaker to watch as an example of how to make a really good film from the off, because it was just brilliant. I couldn't criticize it.
I think it's just so impressive because of how good it looked as well. Like the shots, the colours, the tones, everything, like pacing, music. I'm just so impressed with how much was right with it.
Yeah. Where
it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
And you would still forgive it because you think, oh, it's their first film. Yeah. They had a budget.
It reminded me the sort of the steel mill industrial town sort of reminded me of the films of Scott Cooper, with like Crazy Heart, and it had that sort of bleak, slightly depressed, economically saturated look to it.
Yeah, I agree.
It really captured sort of what life in small town Pennsylvania would be like.
Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't fault it at all.
Should we give it a rating?
Yeah, would you like to rate it?
Yeah, should we rate it out of pumpkin pies?
Yeah. How should we do it? I would personally give it 9 pumpkin pies out of 10.
I think 9 pumpkin pies as well, and the only one that I would take off would probably be because I would have wanted to see a bit more of some of the other characters.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily the director's fault or anything.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But that is the only criticism, really.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah.
Or maybe 90 pumpkin pies out of the 100 that were in that room.
Yeah. There was a lot of pumpkin pie left over.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, so in summary, I felt that Hollidaysburg was just a perfectly decent, really well made indie coming of age drama with really, really well fleshed out characters, great acting, great music, tonally perfect, and just thoroughly enjoyed every minute of it, basically.
Yeah, it was a pleasant surprise, I think.
Excellent, yeah, I agree. And on that note, shall we move on to Not Cool?
I guess we have to.
Yeah.
A lot can be said for a film where it starts by zooming out of a girl's behind.
I don't think I even noticed that.
No? It does, yeah. So the camera literally, like, she's wearing trousers or something, but it pans out from her butt.
Ah, okay.
I'll have to show you.
Yeah,
again.
I think so, yeah. It's hard to know where to begin talking about this film.
There's a lot. There's a lot to go through.
And I feel like I almost need to watch it again because there was so much going on within the first 15 minutes. It was like an absolute assault on the senses. And it was just full of almost too many crude jokes to keep up with, and too much shrieking and too much character introduction and too much exposition. And I felt almost bowled over by the first 15 minutes, but that's not a compliment.
Yeah.
I don't know how you felt about it.
The same. And I found that there was so much, by the time you're writing one thing down, you're like, oh wait, what was that? Hang on, and then you have to go back a bit because there's something else equally as offensive as the thing that you just wrote down.
It's quite telling that I ended up with half a page of notes for Hollidaysburg, and I almost ran out of paper for notes on Not Cool. So we are gonna dive into the controversy surrounding the background of the film in another episode, because we feel that's a whole other side story around the whole Shane Dawson controversy, which, again, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the film, you might want to scoot off now and watch it, because we're going to be talking about it in depth. So I did feel that to me, the film was almost like a checklist of how offensive can we make a film? How repugnant can we make it? How squalid? How gloriously OTT offensive can we make it? It was like a complete assault on the senses right from the opening minute.
and how many stereotypes can we include? How many groups of people can we offend? How many types of inappropriate jokes can we make? All in the space of, what was it, like an hour and a half?
Yeah, I think it was
kind of impressive.
5 minutes. Yeah, it was quite impressive in how committed it was to offending. I mean, there was jokes about Indian people in there. All the male characters were stereotypically really gay or effeminate.
Or jerks.
Jerks or jocks. Or there was jokes about disabled people in it. There was jokes about mentally ill people in it. There was jokes about transvestites, jokes about black people. There was the jokes about the overweight girl in it as well. So literally any sort of ism, whether it's racism, sexism, fatism.
They covered all bases.
Yeah, literally everything. I think Shane Dawson was aiming for the scattergun approach of South Park, whereby he was you could almost hear him thinking, if I offend one person, I'll get in trouble. But if I offend everybody, I won't get in trouble.
Yeah, so, I agree. I think the thing is, a lot of people try to attempt that style of humour, but the problem is they always get the wrong end of the joke, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It's really hard to explain. Like, they focus too much on the offensive sort of style of jokes, and they kind of forget to put the joke in it, if that makes sense. But South Park, okay, you could say it's offensive, I guess, and they do make fun of certain stereotypes or whatever, but somehow it's more tastefully done than things like this. Yeah,
it's almost satirising the joke itself, not just being offensive for being offensive's sake.
Like you said, when it's satirising, like it's almost, the joke is about racism really deep down. Like even though the joke is about a stereotype, they're making fun of the racist part of it, if that makes sense, not of that group of people, if that makes sense. Whereas I think people misinterpret that and think, well, they do it and they get away with it, I guess. So I'll try it. And then we get this film.
Because it was one of those films where I when I got to the end of it, unlike Anna Martemucci, whose name I can never remember. Like Anna Martemucci's film, I didn't really get what the point of Not Cool was. By the end of the film, I didn't really feel I'd gotten anywhere with any of the characters or the story.
There's no message.
No, which I know sometimes is not always a bad thing in a film. Sometimes you just want a bit of light-hearted teen comedy escapism, but I still feel, for example, even in American Pie, She's All That, Van Wilder, Get Over It, any of those sort of Mean Girls, any film like that, even within lowbrow sort of teen comedies, sort of frat house comedies and things like The House Bunny, the characters all go somewhere within the film. Whereas this film, I just felt it was just setting out to tick off as many offensive stereotypes and insulting, degrading, vulgar caricatures as possible.
Basically.
You had a few particular lines which stood out from the film, didn't you?
Actually, even just the beginning. So when it starts off at a party, and it's almost an impressive shot where it's one take going around the whole party, like around the rooms and then upstairs. It's showing their tweets, isn't it? That was the one they started off with. So the first sort of offensive thing they started off with was a tweet saying, "Loving the dark meat this Thanksgiving." Just
to put into context, that was a woman pulling a guy pulling a black girl.
That's right, like she was like lap dancing on him or something like that. Oh my gosh, And then straight after that, there was someone tweeting out, "Having so much fun this break, but really missing my girlfriend," and then he starts kissing a guy because somehow that's funny, I guess.
Just hilarious that he's pretending to be straight. Was it? And then there was a few minutes after where the large girl puts a picture of herself on social media, but filters the hell out of it. So she's really slim and but then she says no filter or something like that.
That's right. Yeah, she's like just someone looking to get stuffed this Thanksgiving or something like that. Yeah. It was like, oh my gosh, okay.
It was just absolutely appalling from top to bottom, wasn't it? And,
I feel like you only need to watch the opening just to understand what the tone of the film's going to be like.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's all you need. You don't need to watch the whole thing.
Literally from minute one. I just found like a lot of the interactions and the jokes and the stories, like none of it made sense. Like there was a scene in the car where they where Scott and Tori, the main character, and Tori the hoary, said it already, they have an argument, but it's a really fake manufactured one, because by the time you finish watching them arguing, you're not really sure why they've argued.
I had to go back and watch that again, that bit, because I didn't understand what the argument actually was, and it still didn't make sense to me. So obviously Tori is the main character, and the opening to this film, after all the offensive tweets, talks about her.
She gets the nickname at the party, doesn't she?
I think that nickname she's had since school.
Yeah.
And she talks about parts of her life, like she had sex with a zucchini and a baby carrot or something.
Yeah.
Something about her bedwetting as well, I remember, until she was in her teens or something.
Yeah. There was almost too many jokes and things to keep up with, wasn't there?
Yeah.
It was a lot to take in for such a short, puerile film.
It's the weirdest way to introduce a character, like, oh, here's all these weird facts about me. And it's like, I don't know, I do like films where the main character is a little bit kooky.
Yeah.
But I think they tried a little bit too hard for her.
She was, for a main character, she was really unlikable, wasn't she? And she was really difficult to get on with. And she admitted that her nickname was Tori the Hoary, and she was really, really unhappy with this, even though she had had sex with loads of different guys. Or not, I'm not really sure.
I wasn't following.
Or
is she
just a
Hoary or?
I don't know. It was just so much incoherence about it, wasn't there?
Yeah, I agree.
And like the continuity errors didn't help either. Like where she was in a party and she had vomit all over her, and then they revisit the same scene later on, and she gets vomited all over her again at the party. But this time she's got a phone in her hand.
Yeah, it's supposed to be the same incident.
Yeah.
But.
And then Scott is eating the pizza, and then he's got more of the pizza in his hand than he did before.
Yeah.
And then he's got crumbs all over his face, and then he hasn't, and then he has again.
Just to explain as well, so Scott in this one, as the main character, is played by Shane Dawson.
Yes.
Shane Dawson plays 3 characters in this film.
He does, yeah. He seemed to have a bit of a bizarre predilection for getting dressed up as a woman throughout the film.
2 out of 3 characters did that, basically. Yeah. So, yeah.
But it's hard to summarise talking about the film, isn't it? Because it is just so vulgar and offensive, and it's jokes about incest, it's jokes about everything really, mentally ill characters, blind people.
That was quite bad actually. Where the person who was supposed to be Tori's sister in the film was blind, but to obviously prove that she's blind, she had to keep touching people's faces, like she's like this.
Yeah.
Blind people would definitely do that.
Yeah. And there was that joke where she said that she just passed the driving test.
Yeah,
and it
it's
just doesn't
unnecessary.
And there was that one about her having a fifth sense as well, when when she was having that heart to heart with Tori, and then she said, "Oh, you're really good at working these things out. I guess I must have a sixth sense." And then Tori says, "Actually, shouldn't that be a fifth sense?"
That's probably the only smart-ish joke in that whole film, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that was a clever gag, admittedly, but it was still incredibly offensive, wasn't it? And just the hysterically overwrought acting of the mentally ill lady who played Scott's mother,
I think it was his
or his
aunt.
auntie.
Yeah, the one who was abducted by aliens and got pregnant by the Queen or something.
Yeah.
And it ate its way out of her, I think she says.
Yeah.
Something like that, isn't it?
Yeah. And then she was just like screeching in their ears over dinner. And like getting
trying
all
not
up
to
in
kill
their
them.
faces, yeah.
She's like, no, I can't kill them or something like that.
Oh yeah, she was saying that the voices in her head were trying to tell her to kill people. Yeah.
Because all mentally ill people have voices in their head.
Yeah,
really.
absolutely. Yeah. And they all just run around shrieking and waving their hands around and screeching at people.
And it's hilarious.
Yeah. Other offensive points I've got in my notes. The stupid Ecuadorian bitch.
Oh my god, yeah.
Character called Draper the Raper.
Yeah. That's the
mean,
teacher. That's Scott's sister. I forgot what her name is. I think. It's Janie.
Janie.
So Janie, Scott's sister, she's failing a class. I think. I'm just trying to remember because a lot of it is incoherent. So you have to try and follow it as much as you can.
Yeah.
But I think she's failing something in Draper the Raper's class, and then Joel, who is some random strange guy, offers to help her sort of get her grades up for it.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. I think it's almost worse that Draper the Raper was a teacher rather than just some oversexed friend of theirs.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, obviously then you're implying not only rape but child abuse as well.
Yeah.
So a teacher on student.
It's brilliant.
And there was the Dance Central scene where Tori's uncle, was it?
Her dad.
Was that Tori's dad?
Yeah.
Yeah, where he said, "This is how I imagine black people playing this game."
Yeah, because they were really good at it.
They were dancing really well.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just
unnecessary. It's just so unnecessary. Like,
it just ran the gamut of jokes about rape, Native American genocide.
Literally covered everything.
Just everything, yeah. Just there was no stone unturned.
I think what you could do is play like drunk bingo with this game.
Yeah,
that would be really good.
That
If you just write down every stereotype, like every racist stereotype or offensive thing you can think of, stick it all on a nice big bingo grid, and then stick it on with your mates.
Yeah,
you know,
offensive bingo. Yeah.
Yeah. That could be a lot.
There was that line, bestiality as well. You're allowed to have sex with your dog in Kentucky, apparently. According to one of there was the joke where the girl in the wheelchair was called Megatron by the bitchy queen bee girl.
That character. Why does everyone scream in it as well?
Yeah.
Everyone is just constantly screaming.
Yeah.
It's just like, tone it down.
Yeah. It reminds me a little bit of Mark Kermode's review of Fred the movie.
Oh yeah.
Where he said that he literally had to watch the last 45 minutes of it with two big wads of tissue stuffed in his ears because there was so much relentless shrieking. I won't do an impression of it, but
please do.
if you check out Mark Kermode's review of Fred the movie, he said he literally watched it after about 45 minutes with tissue stuffed in his ears because of all the ear piercing shrieking that was just relentless and horrendous to endure.
I mean, luckily, I wouldn't say this was that bad, but it was up there.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was Heather, for me, that was just too wacky of a character. So Heather in Anna Martemucci's film, Hollidaysburg. I don't know why I didn't say the title then, like we haven't just talked about it for ages. But like her version of Heather was very believable, and I liked what she did with her, like struggling.
Yeah.
With wanting to go back to college and things, and then this one was
She was the redhead girl.
No, so Heather was was Scott's girlfriend.
Oh yeah.
She's his girlfriend in both adaptations.
Yeah.
But in this one, she's like psycho, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
That bit in the train station.
Yeah.
In the toilets.
And that was the other thing, wasn't there? The overhead shot of the toilet cubicles.
Oh,
and you've got
God.
the random overweight guy sort of, enjoying himself in a gentlemanly fashion, as they used to say in Viz magazine.
Oh my god.
And then you've got the glory hole incident.
The glory hole incident.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on. Please explain the glory hole incident.
I just don't even begin to. It basically just involves the girl needing her braces back, doesn't it?
Oh my god,
I think her retainer comes out, and then they split up for seemingly no apparent reason.
That made no
and
sense
then
to me.
She needs the retainer back, but she's on the other side of the fence of the cubicle, so yeah, it didn't really make.
No, they were all over each other, and then she just starts crying and breaks up with him, which is really strange because surely you would have broken up before.
Yeah. After being so excited to see him from coming back from
like shrieking at him and like jumping on him and things, you'd think if you were going to break up with someone, you maybe wouldn't react like that.
Yeah, you probably would be less interested in seeing them again. Like when they next appeared, you certainly wouldn't shriek relentlessly at them and then jump on them and then try and have sex with them in the cupboard at a party.
Yeah, exactly.
I think possibly the most offensive joke, the one that made me literally gasp, was the whiteboard at the party. I'm guessing you know the one I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. I know.
Do you want to share?
I mean, the whole lead up to that was terrible as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was one of the worst in terms of stereotypes. Was when Heather is trying to get Scott to get back with her.
Yeah.
So she's kind of pushed him into a bedroom at this party.
Yeah.
The party of the Indian guy we'd made fun of earlier in the film.
Mm-hmm.
And then she makes these sexual jokes in like Indian accents and things, and
she gets one of the homeowners in traditional Indian costumes out.
Yeah.
Puts it over her.
Like E.T. or something.
Until she looks like E.T. and then until Heather looks like E.T.
Yeah.
And then she starts making all these really offensive sort of stereotypical slurs in a poorly imitated Indian accent.
Yeah.
And then things happen, don't they? And she rapes Scott. Like it just is what it is. He's constantly saying, "No, I don't want this. I don't want this." And then that's when she says something. I'm not even going to. No, we're not going there. Don't worry. But basically, he's saying no constantly. I don't want this, and then she does it anyway. That is rape. Not funny. Tori walks in, kind of blames him for it as well, which I really didn't understand that. Like maybe if you didn't believe it, like if he was saying, "No, wait, I promise I didn't want it," or whatever. Yeah. And she's like, "Oh yeah, right." Like maybe I could understand that. Maybe, but still not really. But it's not that. It's the fact that she says, "Oh, come on, she's only like £90 or something," as if like she couldn't physically do that. Yeah. Which is not okay. It's almost like sort of saying that males can't be raped by women. Exactly. Like that was stupid. And then the worst bit comes after when the guy whose party it is, he walks up to a whiteboard that says, what does it say? It says, there have been blank rapes at this party. And then he wipes off the 0 and puts a 1. Yeah. Because it's so funny. This is absolutely shockingly bad from that was top shocking. To beginning. Yeah, that was out of the whole film, that was the joke that made me literally gasp when I watched it. Yeah. And I just it seems almost impossible in a film full of so many offensive jokes aimed at everybody. That was the most offensive one. Oh, definitely, yeah. You literally have to see it to believe it, don't you? You say that. Yeah. You don't have to watch it. No, you don't have to watch it. I wouldn't recommend it. No. Even not just talking in terms of how offensive the jokes were, some of them really just weren't funny. Yeah.
there's two that spring to mind straight away talking about that. There's the one with Tori's parents when they're exercising, and her mum says, "Oh, I need to fart," like it's a natural human thing to do.
Yeah, especially whilst exercising.
Yeah.
It happens a lot. My friend's a qualified yoga teacher, and he says it happens a lot.
Oh my god, okay, I'm glad I'm not a yoga teacher. And then the most generic fart sound you've ever heard in your life.
Yeah. It's like a whoopee cushion sound effect.
Yeah, it was terrible. And then she just says, "I have messed myself."
And then slowly gets up off the floor and waddles out of the room.
You just think...
Like she's been riding a horse for a week.
Like, a poop joke's still funny?
Yeah.
Like, what is this?
Yeah. It's like, because I always thought like, poo jokes sort of went out in about 2003. People don't really find that sort of stuff funny anymore.
No, I know it was 6 years ago, but I feel like we definitely moved past that even 6 years ago. Yeah. Like, it had been out of fashion for a while. So.
Yeah. I think the last time I saw a joke like that sort of done earnestly was, is it the Adam Sandler film where, I can't remember if it's Big Daddy or Mr. Deeds, but there's a bit where he bumps into an opera singer in a restaurant and he punches him, and then he falls over, and then the opera singer says, "I think I just shat myself." Because obviously he's an opera singer, so he's like morbidly obese. So apparently morbidly obese people shitting themselves is funnier than normal sized people.
That sounds pretty much on par with this film.
Yeah.
So the other joke that I just thought wasn't funny, not offensive, just not funny, was a joke that was made when Scott shows up to Tori's house and her mum says they're going to play Dance Central, and he says, what's the joke?
He says, I'm like a depressed dog.
Yeah.
Or something.
Because I ain't got no bones.
Oh, yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. Which I didn't understand the funny part. Is it a reference we don't understand? Like, I don't.
Yeah. I didn't really.
Maybe someone can let us know.
Yeah, if we're missing something, because at first I didn't understand what he said.
Yeah.
Because he didn't say it very clearly, and then when I did understand what he said, I still didn't get where the joke was.
Yeah. Same.
And it just fell flat, didn't it? It was just really painfully unfunny.
I physically cringed.
Yeah, I did literally. I cringed as well when he said it. I went, oh. There was a lot of sighing and tutting and head shaking whilst we were watching this film.
So there's one more very distasteful joke that we should probably mention.
Yes. Is it the one that I'm thinking of? Amidst all of the other gloriously offensive jokes in this film.
Probably. It's probably one of the bigger ones we've left out so far.
Yeah. Is it the supermarket one?
That'll be the one?
Yeah.
There we go. If you'd like to explain.
So basically, as part of their bucket list, they decided that it'd be really, really hilarious to steal a watermelon from a supermarket whilst having hijinks and larks running around, causing mayhem in the supermarket,
moving people shopping around or something.
Buying peppers and moving people shopping around.
Yeah.
And then so they decide to steal a watermelon, and they think a good hiding place for it would be up Tori's jumper. So obviously, she looks heavily pregnant, and they get to the till and they are paying for their goods, and then they get involved in a conversation with the cashier, and she asks if they feel prepared for the pregnancy, and she says, well, it's hard to prepare for it when it's rape.
Yeah.
Because obviously rape's hilarious.
Yeah. So hilarious that they've made a couple of jokes involving.
Yeah. quite a few of them. But as if that wasn't then bad enough, just when you feel like you've winced enough just from that bit, they are then leaving the checkout, and then as a laugh, Scott deliberately trips his girlfriend over in front of everyone, and she falls flat on her face, stomach first, obviously, and said enormous fruit explodes, propelling a giant gush of bright red viscera from out in between her legs, and it looks like she's had a miscarriage.
Again, hilarious.
Which is just...
Yeah. I remember this song.
It's just... I personally, I found it difficult to take this film, like... I found it difficult to take it all in because it was just such a huge checklist of how offensive can one film be. I don't know if you ever had the misfortune of watching Freddy Got Fingered with Tom Green.
No, I tried to watch it. I turned it off.
That says it all, really. That was like a series of sketches designed to be cobbled together to cause maximum offence to the maximum amount of people. And again, one of the most painfully unfunny films that you'll probably ever lay eyes on. Movie 43, loads of really, really famous A-list people in it. Again, sketches that are just mashed together to create this non-stop, turgid, stomach-churning gamut of the basis of toilet humour you could wish to lay eyes on, really. Again, total critical flop and commercial flop, and nobody who's in that film wants anything to do with being associated with that film anymore. And I think the same could be said for Not Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Just an absolutely relentless and unremitting dive into the most disgusting, squalid 90-minute toilet you can imagine, really.
That basically sums up the whole film. I just think, really, even the characters were just completely not relatable. Mm-hmm. Their conversations were completely unnatural.
Yeah.
It kind of was weird. It was like half seemed like improv, and then half seemed like they were sticking very closely to the script to make it sound smooth and realistic, but it really wasn't. Yeah.
There was, for example, there were some outtakes towards the end, wasn't there, where you could hear Shane Dawson telling the cast to improvise certain jokes, but improvise about a very specific topic, like now do something about penises, now do something about vaginas, now do something about assholes.
Yeah.
And the cast were improvising within very strict instructions, which seems to me contradictory to improvising. Yeah. Yeah.
It's not quite what improvising is.
Yeah. I mean, you look at films like The Wrong Missy, the main character from that, I can't remember her name, but you get the sense that a lot of that was improvised, but that is because she's a very, very skilled comedy improv actress. I can't remember what her name is now, but yeah, she's just absolutely brilliant. And this film, I even found Shane Dawson's character's voice, because it was almost like a grown man trying to put on a slightly high-pitched voice of an adolescent teenager, but it just came across as whiny and unbearable to listen to.
I did feel like pretty much all the characters in that film just seemed like adults trying to play teenagers, whereas in Hollidaysburg it really did feel like they could be that age. Even though they probably weren't either.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. It was just more believable, wasn't it? And I found it one of the most remorselessly revolting films I think I've ever seen.
There's not much more you can say, really, is there? No. I don't really want to go into all the subplots either, because they were really pointless at the end of the day. Like with the friend Joel, who was trying to pursue Scott's sister.
Yeah.
Didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, it was very pointless.
And pursuing her really aggressively to the point where he was sexually assaulting her quite frequently.
Exactly.
And making vulgar sort of hand gestures with his, I won't do it, but with his hands and his mouth.
Yes.
And his tongue right in front of her.
It's a bit strange, all of that.
And it's almost hard to say enough about the film, isn't it, really?
I don't think I have much more to say about it, to be honest.
Are you spent? Yeah.
I think, it's tiring talking about it, actually, isn't it?
It's really tiring, yeah. I think Mark summed it up perfectly when he talked about Dirty Grandpa. He said, not only do I never want to watch this film again, I never even want to think about this film again.
Yeah.
And I think that is a perfect encapsulation of how I feel about Not Cool.
I couldn't agree more. I think I'll be glad when we've finished all of this, so we never have to speak about it again.
Not Cool was most definitely not cool.
Savage.
And that was not a compliment.
Oh god, what should we rate it out of? Like,
I would give it 2 used condoms that I fished out of a drain out of 10.
2.
Two's been generous.
I think I'll give it 2 for the 2 laughs that it actually forced me to have.
Yeah. There's not much more we can say about Not Cool,
is there? Not really, other than production wise, they had a terrible green screen for the car scenes, passing the same houses over and over. Yeah. That's the only other thing I can think of worth mentioning.
Yeah. And personally, I found as well with the car scenes, they weren't integrated in the car scenes weren't integrated into the plot like they were in Hollidaysburg, or they were, but they were done very, very poorly in a way that didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And it was just.
I'm not even going to talk about the homeless guy.
Oh yeah.
I don't even know if that's worth mentioning.
No.
Basically, there is a lot. Like, we probably have left out a lot. To be honest, there's too much to go through. If you really want to see all the ins and outs and how terrible the jokes are, I guess you'll have to watch it.
Yeah. It's worth experiencing 90 minutes of your life for once, and then that's it. You never have to think about it again. That's true. Yeah. And that wraps up our review of Not Cool. So in an absolutely devastating twist, given our rationale of the 2 films, Hollidaysburg and Not Cool, I would have expected Hollidaysburg to be the runaway winner of the competition. However, Not Cool won. We have some sad violin music playing here, like absolutely astonishing. Like how did that film win compared to the solidly crafted, engrossing, well acted, convincing indie drama
with the actual plot that's believable and like dialogue that's believable and a nice message. Yeah. Good music. So
I'm guessing because Not Cool somehow won, there was the prize at the end. Was that for Shane Dawson to direct another feature film? I think he
could just do what he wanted with the money. It's like $250,000.
Oh wow.
I think he could just do what he wanted with that. But I think that what a lot of people suspect was the reason why he won mainly is because he already had a following. Mm-hmm. He had, I think it was 6 million subscribers on YouTube and 3 million followers on Twitter. That's what I read on one article anyway. Yeah. So, and then Anna Martemucci, she only had, I think, about 3,000 Twitter followers. So she really didn't have the following that he did at all. So obviously he had a huge fan base. A lot of them like teenagers who maybe would have found the jokes a bit funnier.
Yeah.
So
I mean, ultimately, I think if you're given the general consensus of mainstream cinema, if you put a film like Hollidaysburg up against a gross out teen comedy into the multiplexes, generally, no matter what the end result of each film is like or how well or badly each one was made, the multiplex mainstream one is always going to win out.
That's
compared
true.
Compared to the solidly made, crafted drama.
That's probably another factor. And the creator of the show, The Chair, actually, that's what he said he thinks is the reason why. That he said mainstream would win over art house and things like that. And then other people suspected that the following he had obviously came into play as well. It's probably a bit of both, to be honest.
Yeah. Was there, if my understanding is correct, there was a criteria to make sure that the playing field was as level as possible by the test audiences both having to verify that they've seen both films.
Both films, yeah.
By reciting certain lines of dialogue from it or something? Or?
I think so. They had to fill out a survey on SurveyMonkey, I think, and it would have very specific questions to do with plot points for both films, I think. So then if they couldn't prove that they'd seen both films, their vote would get discounted anyway. And it was about, I think, 39% of votes were thrown out, which is quite a lot,
that
really.
Is a lot, yeah. That's people trying to swing the results in Shane Dawson's favour.
Imagine how much more it probably would have won by as well. So I assume that the reason why they would have only seen one film is because it would have been his, surely.
Because,
for
example, like a lot of the teenage fan base probably wouldn't have been old enough to get into the film by Anna Martemucci.
Or they probably, even if they could, they wouldn't have understood it. It probably wouldn't have spoken to them. Whereas, even though the other one shouldn't have either, because it's meant to be the same kind of story, it's got fart jokes and poop jokes and things that they can maybe just laugh at more. They don't have to necessarily understand the story.
It's just proper escapism, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which is what girls of that age go to the cinema for, rather than, to go to see well-crafted.
I agree. It's a shame, it really is. And I think even though I already knew which film had won before watching them, because I did quite a lot of research into the show and both films before watching them, it actually annoyed me more, having watched both, that Hollidaysburg didn't win. Honestly. So I didn't think I was going to like it that much. Like, I thought it would be decent, and that I kind of knew I would prefer it over Not Cool, but I didn't realise I was going to like it this much. So it really annoyed me.
Absolutely. I mean, it's an absolute travesty, isn't it? That it didn't win.
It is.
Really, really unbelievable. So I think that is about it, isn't it, for this episode? Like I say, we are going to be covering off a variety of topics, and we've also got some very exciting projects coming up in the near future as well. So keep your eyes peeled for that. More details will be coming out very soon. Some of it may not be about films. That's all I will say at the moment. I think we've been working on that behind the scenes, and we're very excited about that. So that wraps up our review of Hollidaysburg and Not Cool. We really, really hope you've enjoyed our very first episode of There Will Be Films. We will be uploading some new content in the very near future, so please tune in for that. Hope you've enjoyed it, and if you like what you've seen, tell everyone you know. Bye. It's the vast majority of things that I own is just boxes of books. And obviously, compared to like Kindles, where you could probably fit 10,000 books onto something that's smaller than my hand. And I got quite small hands.
Do you?
They're quite small.
Actually. Oh my god, they're like the same size as mine. Sorry. I mean, what? No, your hands, they're very normal size, Gavin.
Okay. Give it to me straight.
Oh my god.